New York Times reporter Nicholas Coolish is covering the story and joins me from JFK Airport, where he's been since 2 a.m. to talk about it and the wider implications of the new Trump policy. Nick, can you give us a little more information about Mr. Darwish?
Sure. He worked for about 10 years for the United States Army and the United States government in Iraq. He thought that he was coming here for an easy trip with his visa to get into this country with his wife and his 3 children. Instead, he watched his family enter the United States while he remained detained overnight here at JFK Airport.
And we should point out there's been a protest going on. That's what's happening behind you, right?
There's a pretty sizable protest going on behind me. It's funny. It was completely empty and silent. Just a couple of lawyers working on briefs and motions here overnight, and now you can hear behind me hundreds of people protesting in favor of immigrants.
And in terms of the legal aspect of this, what happens going forward for Mr. Darwish? And there's another Iraqi man there too who has been detained.
Yes, there is another Iraqi national here who's hoping to join his wife and child in Texas, but he remains in detention, as do at least another 10 people. But no one really knows for sure how many would-be immigrants and refugees are spread throughout JFK Airport's various terminals.
It seems like it's been a very confusing day at airports across the country. Have you spoken to anyone at TSA or Homeland Security or any officials who've told you about what they know and what the process is going to be?
It feels as though there almost isn't a process, as though the individual people trying to process and deal with the executive orders aren't sure exactly how to interpret them. Some people think that it applies to green card holders. Other people think that it only applies to refugees. So there's a lot of chaos, a lot of uncertainty, and I think that leads to longer detention times, even for people who probably have a right to be in the country.
There have been reports of American businesses calling people back. Google, one report says, has about 100 people who are traveling abroad who might be affected by this order. What other institutions are having issues or potential issues?
Certainly we've heard that educational institutions are having a serious problem with undergraduates, graduate students, even faculty members who are unable to come back after the winter break. But I think the biggest issue are really for families, for people who maybe in Iraq sold their homes, sold their cars, and are now trapped either here or in a third country with no certainty as to where they'll end up.
Nick Coolish from the New York Times, thank you so much for taking the time to join us.
Thanks for having me.